Chewy, you said something last night about one of the problems that we always do is we get secondhand shit not fit for purpose, and then this kind of thing happens. Literally today, they're talking about getting secondhand ferries instead of it. Let's have a look at the story from News Hub tonight.
The ferries are still coming and going, but at the terminal and along the wharf, it's tools down, and it's got the unions mad.
We're seeing this project develop, and we're behind it, but it's just astounding. It's just to be canned so quickly.
Finance Minister Nicola Willis announced yesterday Cabinet declined to fund Kiwi Rail's IREX project.
It's a pretty cool looking ferry. I mean, you know, we're not going to see it, but she's pretty dope looking.
Because the cost has gone from $1.5 billion to almost $3 billion now for unions.
Well, that's not entirely true what they're saying, because they said then they're not ordering the ferries because the cost has gone from 1.5 million to 3. Now, the cost of the ferries hasn't changed at all. They're locked into a contract with that. The cost has to do with the terminals and what they need to do to those terminals, which is some hand is in the government's control, because it's all about seawalls and earthquaking. And there's a big part of this, which actually the government, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but they have control over some of the increase in costs due to the increase in regulations. Not saying it's bad. I mean, we want buildings not to fall down. But that's actually a lot of the reason that the cost has gone up. And we'll play this too, but some of the maritime unions and the unions themselves who have thought they would have had jobs for the next 6 years are now pretty unhappy.
Representing maritime and rail workers are calling for Willis to resign.
I think she should stand down with making such a big call without having a lot of debate.
Do you resign? No, this was a decision made by Cabinet. It is the right decision for New Zealand.
Kiwi Rail says it might still have to build the 2 ferries already on order and then sell them.
But the new ships aren't causing the budget blowouts. It's costs for things like sea walls and wharf upgrades to meet seismic and flood requirements. Kiwi Rail CEO is questioning who should be footing the bill for that in the first place.
You know, if Air New Zealand bought in large planes, they wouldn't have to pay for all the upgrades for the terminals.
Kiwi Rail, the government and other stakeholders
interesting point. Yeah, interesting point.
What happens next? The finance minister is adamant, though, there will be new ferries, just not the ones Kiwi Rail wanted.
The Ferrari is not the only car in the garage. I think it's time we had a look and see if there's a Toyota Corolla, good reliable one, that might be able to do the job, or maybe some second-hand Teslas.
I think they'd be more like a Lada. I don't think we're going to find what they're looking for, to be truthful.
Either way, both the mayors of Wellington and Marlborough want a quick solution.
No, I still have some hope that there will be solutions found, but it is a necessary part of our state highway network and journeys.
We still need a new plan, and I think that's the thing that I'll be talking to Kiwi Rail and the government about. It's vital.
Vital to keep the islands connected. Leighton Hakel, News Hub.
There you go, Chewy. So you called it last night. You called it about looking at buying something secondhand that wasn't fit for purpose. But that information tonight, specifically about, sorry, my brain just turned off. Oh, that's right. About perhaps Kiwi Rail still having to build and buy these things and then sell them off is just another layer on this ridiculous grandstand we're on right now.
I think some of the other things I said last night as well, equally true. It's she wants to focus on the fact that the ferries have got more expensive because that's easier for the public to swallow. When it's cost blowouts on the actual infrastructure that needs doing. If anybody has gone through Wellington's ferry terminal, it is tired. It's right on a fault line. We've had a couple of big earthquakes in recent years. And you're looking at that and going, oh, maybe it does need to be strengthened. You know, if they are bigger ferries, because our population has grown. We need bigger boats. We need reliable boats. We need something that's designed for this country and the conditions that these boats are going to have to go on.
Yeah.
I did see Kiwi Rob here. He said a few interesting comments about the ferries. I'm going to highlight this one, though. Why can't Wellington Council help in the cost? And I honestly, I don't have an answer for this.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I think it's a fair point. But I mean, is it just Wellington that gets the economic benefits of
Wellington? But Wellington certainly. Well, I mean, I think the head of Kiwi Rail who talked about airports. I mean, if it was a new wing of Auckland International Airport, they would get most of the benefit from that, even though people are landing then going off to Queenstown or going off to Northland or going off to Wellington. Certainly the location that the terminal is in gets the primary advantage from it. Other places get as well. But I think that's a really good question that the guy from Kiwi Rail asked, and I don't have any problems with searching for an answer for that. Why are Kiwi Rail having to build their own terminal? I mean, unless it's this, Chewy, if Kiwi Rail are the only people to use that terminal and the only one to profit from that terminal, maybe there's a case. Whereas the airport example has 20 different companies flying into it who all pay to fly into it.
Pay their landing fees and
So,
stuff like that. But I mean, the flip side of that is cool. That's one end of it, right? So I guess the tiny town of Picton is going to pick up the cost for their terminal. Is it if a bridge needs doing on State Highway 1 in South Canterbury, does the Timaru District Council have to pay for it?
Yeah.
You know,
your point is
not as clear cut. Like, I honestly don't know if this is a stupid idea or whether there's another way of funding it. But again, from a government that is laser focused on tax cuts and always has been, and then can't afford to fund something, then maybe we're looking at the wrong problems. Because we know those ferries are tired. We know that infrastructure is tired. We know that there's challenges with port facilities and earthquake and climate change vulnerable places. And maybe we just need to go, we need to do this. Because as you said last night, Pat, it's not like we can put this off for 5, 10, 15 years and then suddenly it's going to be cheaper. This stuff is not going to get cheaper. We need to do it. We just need to put the big boy pants on and go, this is vital national infrastructure.
And the idea, I don't know if you've seen, but I'm wearing my Christopher Luxon, not a businessman, just a board member t-shirt tonight, because that slogan worked so fucking well at the last election, didn't it? But we've been told borrowing for infrastructure is a sensible thing to do, because then you can pay it back and pay it off over the forthcoming 20 to 50 years. So why can't we do that for this? Why can't the government pay for it, like Tauranga did with their bridge, like Auckland did with their harbour bridge, and then there is a fee to use it by Kiwi Rail that comes back to the central government, and they pay it off over the next 20 to 50 years. So I just think the idea of getting something, as you say, our population smaller and not as effective and not purpose built for that strait, which is a pretty dangerous strait, is going to, in the long run, hurt us more. Now, look, let's be honest. In our own personal finance, we all do that sometimes. Like, I would like to buy, my car is probably getting towards the end of its life. I would like to buy an EV next. I may not be able to do that. I probably can't do that. So I may have to put off what I want, my Ferrari, quote unquote, till the car after this one, and then get an intermediary to get us through. So it's not a practice that's foreign, but I guess when you've basically got access to unlimited sums of money and then access to that being paid back, why wouldn't you do the gold standard? They've literally said we can't have the gold standard. Why not? What's stopping us? Why not put a debt on that thing for the next 40 or 50 years and pay it back? I don't know. It seems small-minded to me from the business party, the big picture business guys. Now, Chewy, I want to share something else with you. All right. Because this is a part of this story. I want to introduce to you people what it means to have a talking point. So we've already seen this two lovely couple tonight. So this is Chris Bishop and Karen Mikononsi on breakfast. Coming up with them, I'm also going to show you Nicola Willis on the AM show. Now, you'll imagine that's the same time. So these guys are on TV at the same time. This is what a talking point looks like.
Every dollar you spend on that is a dollar you can't spend on schools, hospitals, roads, and everything else. So it is a tough decision.
Because every dollar we spend on redeveloping ports and terminals and boats in excess of what's required is a dollar we can't spend on schools, on hospitals, on the roads across the country that need replacing.
Frankly, we were buying a Ferrari solution when, sometimes the old secondhand Toyota Corolla does the job, those old reliables. So that's more what we're going for. Going for the sensible option rather than the the gold-plated option.
The Ferrari is not the only car in the garage. I know that the big ship solution that they came up with was their preference, but I think it's time we had a look and see if there's a Toyota Corolla, good reliable one, that might be able to do the job, or maybe some secondhand Teslas.
So that is what
Wow.
a talking point looks like. And that is exactly what the right do not do well. One other point I want to bring up about this. Willis and Bishop both said as part of their talking points that every dollar you spend on the ferries, on the infrastructure, on whatever, is a dollar you can't spend on hospitals, roads, and skills. Has anybody told them that every dollar that they give to a landlord, every dollar that they give back in tax cuts is not a dollar you can spend on roads, hospitals, and schools? This is this mealy-mouthed, mumble-mouthed fucking approach where they get to pick and choose that we can't afford that, and that theories would take away from schools. And I don't know if you watched Nicola Willis, but she's like, schools and roads and hospitals. But they say it's okay to give all those dollars away to landlords and not use that for schools, roads, and hospitals. So I wanted to highlight tonight, I think all politicians do it, but the right are particularly bad at portraying authenticity and even empathy, and let's be honest, intelligence when it comes to them selling those talking points. You see it in America and the GOP a lot, but what I was almost going to do is line them up on top of each other, but he speaks much quicker than she does because it is literally the same thing. It's a Ferrari, secondhand Corolla. It's roads, it's hospitals, it's schools. And what's happened, we all know this, what's happened is the PR guys last night sent out an email to all of the people as to what would be a good idea to sell. What would be a good talking point? Those two were on TV at the same time. So it's not like Bish heard Willis and went, hey, I like that example, I'm going to use it as well. They were on TV at the same time and said exactly the same thing. I just wanted to show that tonight to you. Yeah.
No, I love it when you see that because it like we've talked about authenticity in the past, and it can be really, maybe you could go on the morning shows and say something like this, just fucking change it up a bit so you don't sound the same. But yeah, I love it when stuff like this gets pointed out. The whole Ferrari versus secondhand trade me Corolla thing. We've been down this route before. One of the most egregious examples of this, the HMNZS Charles Upham. Do you know about that one?
Yeah, keep going.
So, in I think it's the late 70s, government started looking at the fact that the Navy needed a dedicated cargo ship to support overseas operations and disaster response and all of that good stuff. They wanted to be able to take it to Antarctica. It needed to be ice strengthened. It needed to be handle very challenging sub-Antarctic oceans and that sort of thing. It was just basically the gold standard of everything that the military wanted. And then it bounced across several governments over the space of decades. And then in the mid-90s, basically what we settled on after governments going, no, we can't afford it, we can't do that, manage your expectations, come on, pull it into line. They settled on buying a second-hand, third, fourth-hand, Dutch-manufactured cargo ship that had been running oranges up and down the Spanish coast. And they painted it grey. They gave it to the Navy, and it wasn't fit for purpose. And we dicked around with it for like 10, 15 years trying to fix it, make it better. The crews didn't like it because it just made everyone seasick. They had to put in half of its total capacity in ballast to make sure that the crew wasn't constantly throwing up. It couldn't carry what it wanted, and that's what happens when we just go, oh, we'll just buy something off the shelf. Sometimes it doesn't work, and it's just a money pit. And that is my fear. Look, they might be able to find something at a good price that'll do the job, and it'll be an absolute win-win. But that hasn't been our experience here.
We don't have evidence of that to back that up. Yeah.
And I think just, the options of we've paid this money, we can't get out of the contract, we're going to buy the ships anyway, and then we're going to sell them at a loss because we don't want to build robust infrastructure for what is a vital link. Like whenever these ferries go down, it's a bad time.
Yeah.
I remember them crapping out in the school holiday period and people just absolutely losing their shit. You're talking about the transport of goods and freight and livestock between islands. It's not something that you can just pick up the capacity of going, oh, you can just fly from Christchurch. You can't fly a train. You can't fly a stock truck. The analogy that we're using is it is a road, and roads are important. The East Coast knows this. The top of the South Island knows this, of what happens when you lose capacity on your transport network. And as much as I might bitch about National's obsession with roads, this is one that they need to obsess on.
Yeah, no, very good.
It's a big pothole.
We're gonna do one more part of this, and that's the already they're signaling signs to privatize this. But before we do, after we finish that part of the story in 5 minutes or so, we will open up the old Discord. So you need to jump into Discord and come across here to the waiting room that I'm highlighting. There's already a couple people in there waiting. And once we're finished with this story, which has got one more small component to it, we'll fire up the Discord, have a chat with some people. If you want to come and have a chat, we haven't been able to do that for a couple of weeks. Would love to hear your thoughts. Remembering that next week is also our last week. Okay, for the year, that is. So here's the last thing, right? And I'm not going to build this up too much by just saying, have a listen to the language that she says, that she uses around how they're going to approach this now, talking about getting experts around the table. This just screams to me privatization, or at very best, a public-private partnership. So this is talking on breakfast this morning about the ferry terminals and the plan for the Inter-Islander.
I have confidence that we can work together to find a way forward. I do want to get others involved in solving this problem.
Just that straight away. I do want to get others involved. Who are we talking about here? Who are we talking about? Who are we talking about? This is my the bullshit meters going up in the back of the neck a little bit.
Kiwi Rail, by their own admission, are not marine engineers. They're not port experts. They're not experts at building wharves. So I want to make sure we have the right people involved. I also have to acknowledge that Kiwi Rail aren't always going to be best placed to work out what's best for taxpayers, for ferry passengers, for freight passengers. They're going to be the best people to work out.
They're not going to be the best at figuring that out. But this consultancy, they'll probably be much better at it.
What's best for Kiwi Rail's passengers and freight. But we need to take a look at the bigger picture and work with all of the people involved here.
When you say you want to get other people involved, what are you talking about? And is it possible that we could have a separate entity doing capital projects that would then be operated by Kiwi Rail?
Or a separate entity doing it? Is that possible? Like a it begins with a P, a partnership, a privatization, a separate entity working beside Kiwi Rail, and then Kiwi Rail uses their products.
Look, there are a lot of options on the table. My first step is to get experts around the table, experts at developing infrastructure on time and on budget, experts on transport projects, experts who will help me ensure that I don't fall into the same money trap that the last government did, where a project was allowed to quadruple in cost and the checks just had to keep on being written.
Just remember though, National, one of your big complaints was the amount that was spent on consultants by Labor. These people you're going to get around you, Nicola, these experts you're going to get around you, I'm assuming therefore they're voluntary or they're already public servants, because if they weren't voluntary or public servants, then that would be an external cost to the government, much like a consultant. Who are these experts, Chewy?
It's also a massive oversimplification of the cost blowout because Labor's bad at managing their costs. We've had huge inflation. What happens when inflation happens, Pat?
Things
prices
cost more.
Go up. Things cost more.
Yeah.
And you've just taken the work that's been done in planning for that, which has a value, and thrown it away and don't go, we're going to get people to come in and tell us how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like you're already there. You're just fuck.
All right. This has got about 45 seconds to go.
Which
New
means,
Zealand
surely,
has
Minister,
many infrastructure needs.
surely that means it won't be whatever comes next. It won't be Kiwi Rail building it, because you can't throw good money after bad. You can't go down the same track the last government did with this lot.
I think Kiwi Rail will have a role to play, but my message to Kiwi Rail has been the Ferrari is not the only car in the garage. I know that the big ship solution that they came up with was their preference, but I think it's time we had a look and see if there's a Toyota Corolla, good reliable one, that might be able to do the job, or maybe some secondhand Teslas. We've got to look at other options that present a more affordable way forward for New Zealand.
There you go, Chewy. So to me, all I could hear was privatization, public-private partnership, privatization, external group building, making, controlling, and then selling to the government, or living off it for the next 20 or 30 years with fees kicking back to them.
Whether it's a Ferrari, a Corolla, or a secondhand Tesla, at the garage you're putting it in is going to fall over. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, but she's trying to equate. She's trying to keep it simple. There's a couple of messages there. The costs blew out because Labour bad. The costs blew out because we're buying a luxury ship. And the second point is definitely not true. The first point, show me you're working.
No. Can't do that. Hang on. You're not asking for a regulatory impact statement, are you, Chewy? We don't do that. What are you talking about?
Well, sounds like a waste of time. Just slow everything down.
I won't even read it if you do it.